Alright, here we go. This is a custom 1v1 on Simple between the blue player on the left side, Zirnitra, and the Steampunk Striker, and his opponent, the green player on the right side, Polarbearz, and the N-Vision Osprey, which is actually coincidentally color themed with what he is. Actually, green is the N-Vision Osprey. But if you do take a quick look at the loadouts, Zirnitra has two types of infantry. He has Fixer, and he has Soldier. But what he doesn't have is, I mean, I was gonna kind of say a healing unit. He does have a Fixer in that healing unit in that Fixer. He doesn't have bombs. He doesn't have Buckies. But if you do look at Polarbearz's loadout, he is kind of going classic last patch meta, which was, you know, Bucky, Roller, Osprey. And does have 4 probes in queue to be able to grab this outpost really quickly. Zirnitra instead burying his Dillos up, but already has a pre-socket, a pre-made moneymaker that he did get the socket, and they are just both working on their forwards right now. Polarbearz the first to clear his, and Zirnitra just barely behind, not really behind, but Polarbearz with those Buckies will be able to put them outside of the enemy unit's range, and does drop a Buster to take to drop a bunch of damage down. Zirnitra not really doing anything. Oh boy, is he AFK or is he typing or something right now? Right now he is just doing nothing, waiting for his Dillos to build. He is falling way behind in this mid-fight. Polarbearz has almost every single unit on the right side clear, already has a bunch of Buckies sitting there. Let's see if he starts to go out. No, Zirnitra does not quite yet. Polarbearz is just sleepwalking and keeping, you know, clearing what he can. You know, has a lot of Buckies here, and now Zirnitra it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to push up. He might just choose to go with a mass Dillos send when he does have enough, or when he does decide that he has enough. And Polarbearz now has been able to clear pretty much everything here at the mid, trying to get off what salvage he can. Already has level 2 heal, and now does have some AA down, putting another Seeker. And Zirnitra actually now starting to go out with these Dillos. As you saw there, it was a version 2 controlled mass commands have been integrated into version 1, as this is a version 1 type game. We are on Simple. And now Polarbearz probably will lose this. Oh, but Zirnitra really low on health, sitting right next to that Gaddy, and gets finished off by that neutral Gaddy. Does drop that OMG, and Polarbearz is going to clean up a lot of these Dillos that have been sent. Has to deal with these 2 random Dillos sitting over there that got sent over to that other outpost. But Zirnitra is back, hasn't actually lost this outpost. Okay, now it does go down neutral. I was kind of waiting for that to happen. But now Polarbearz has still the advantage here at the mid. It's 36 to 62 right now in terms of upkeep. So Polarbearz is way ahead. Has Zirnitra pinned down. Zirnitra does walk back, and Polarbearz does have this stock. Will probably land quickly, but Zirnitra has a little bit of regen health. Oh, does transform and avoid Polarbearz's fire very briefly to be able to get away from him and not get finished off there on the ground. So now Zirnitra starting to do his leapfrog thing to the mid with some Dillos, but Polarbearz has so many Buckies. If Polar was able to maybe move some over and you know, in a better angle, it would definitely have prevented Zirnitra from leapfrogging the way he did just now. Polarbearz has 4 probes in queue, so he is definitely planning to take this and do something with it. He probably, oh, he does have a roller in his queue, so that will tank quite a lot of damage and will give Polarbearz enough time to move those Buckies over from the side in the range, you know, not necessarily in range, but you know, so the outpost won't be blocking it. And Polarbearz is being pinned down by Zirnitra, and it is a little bit dangerous here just because Zirnitra is a striker and might be able to finish him off with those missiles. And Polarbearz, wow, transforming exactly when Zirnitra transforms down, and does get back out of there. Has a couple more Buckies in queue if, you know, after those rollers. So after he does drop these, oh, and does finish off Zirnitra there. So now after he finishes, after he drops these probes and gets this outpost, he will be able to drop that roller, and, you know, have the roller tank all that damage, and these Buckies will definitely be able to, you know, finish off a lot of these Dillos with that roller, distracting all those Dillos, you know, fire. And lots of Buckies here dropped, and Zirnitra is definitely losing more units than Polarbearz is. I don't even know if one single Bucky died here. Okay, one did die right there, but that's about it. Maybe one more over here. Okay, that was a brute, or not a brute, a Buster. But now Polarbearz does have negative 12 power, so he will start to have to push out because obviously he does not have any generators in his loadouts. And since this is still version 1, they have not incorporated that yet, even though mass commands have been incorporated in version 1 rules. It's pretty much completely separate from version 2 at this moment, besides that Zirnitra did lose this this outpost right here in terms of control. It did go down neutral. All those Buckies were supremely in range, and you know they not supremely in range, but because they were shooting at Zirnitra and he was dancing around in circles, those Buckies were able to actually neutralize that outpost from really far away, even though it wasn't within their range, because the missiles just kept going. And now Polarbearz is starting to move out. Zirnitra does not have too many Dillos left, and Polarbearz is actually quite overwhelming Zirnitra at this point. He probably will take that forward away. Zirnitra does not really have too many units left at all on the field compared to Polarbearz. Polarbearz has this close, completely surrounded. Polarbearz trying to get Zirnitra on the ground, but Zirnitra with really great timing does avoid that kill. But Polarbearz with some Buckies here will actually get a lot of damage in with 3 Buckies. Has not been able to actually take control of that close outpost, and Zirnitra has no more units over here. Polarbearz did come back, and in the meantime, Zirnitra actually did send a bunch of Dillos out, so they are actually right there at the front door. Holy moly, this is doing a lot of damage, and Polarbearz now definitely has to react to this. Zirnitra is going to kill a few more Buckies while Polar is distracted, but not body blocking, just trying to kill the Dillos as fast as he can, and his health actually is much lower than Zirnitra's at this point, even though Polar was doing all that harass, and not necessarily harass, but all those 4 drops with those Buckies, and now Zirnitra is starting to move out with the Dillos, and will definitely be able to, I don't know, he might be able to clear these units over here that Polarbearz has. Polarbearz now finally coming back to the fight. Nothing left at this mid, nothing really left here at the forward either. So now Zirnitra might actually be able to continue this push. The last creep does walk in. This outpost does go back up to blue, and Zirnitra now immediately going for that attack at the mid. Polarbearz now definitely has to defend against the mid. Does bring that roller back. And now the Dillo will change its targets to this roller, but the roller is also smoking black. Polarbearz really needs to heal up some stuff right here. Zirnitra has a lot of Dillos sitting over here, and I don't know if Polarbearz is going to really be able to keep up with Zirnitra's Dillos at this point. Polarbearz does grab some creeps, so this will... Oh, no, I thought he was going to be able to drop those in time to keep them under his control, but Zirnitra was able to neutralize it before those creeps did get in, and now Polar is kind of starting to pull back here. There are a lot of Dillos here for Zirnitra. He is sending them out, but there are still quite a lot of Buckies and 2 rollers of here for Polarbearz, so it will take a little bit of time for Zirnitra to actually clear the units that are sitting over here for Polarbearz. Polarbearz does have 1. Oh, actually, both of those rollers are still alive, starting to move in more defensive. Oh, but Zirnitra finishing off Polarbearz on the way back there. Polarbearz starting to move his units back to more of a defensive position at this mid, more of a kind of like a safer position at using the outpost as cover, but Zirnitra able to finish him off there, and now Polarbearz, you know, now these Dillos are a little bit closer. Polarbearz does have those rollers, though, so Zirnitra will not be able to you know, get too many more Buckies killed, and Zirnitra actually did get killed very briefly here. Polarbearz with more with more Buckies. Let's see where he decides to go, how he decides to use them. Will he send them on Y attack, or will he send them on capture, or will he start ferrying them up to this higher ground at the mid? And now just healing up his rollers, trying to keep what he can alive, but really low on health, and not actually finished off by Zirnitra. I kind of expected Zirnitra to follow him there, and trying to finish off that roller from behind, but now Polarbearz definitely has pulled back his units really far. Zirnitra with just a few Dillos has managed to pretty much scare Polarbearz away, even though Polarbearz has still way more units than Zirnitra does. Bucky upkeep has Bucky upkeep. This patch has been increased to 4. It used to be 2. It used to be 1. But now it is 4. And at this point, Polarbearz is still really, again, negative, very, very negative on power after bringing a bunch of those Buckies out. Zirnitra trying to deal with these rollers, but now we do have a train of Buckies here that will get kind of slaughtered by this, it's kind of like a shooting gallery for these Dillos. Zirnitra will start to pull these back, but now Polarbearz has a lot of Buckies here at this close. Let's see if he actually decides to go with an attack or more with a capture. He has been able to neutralize this outpost. Let's see if he sets something. He did set these 4 to hold position, and these over here have kind of stopped. Oh, but the Buckies stopped within range of the fort, and because they're on the low ground, they stopped here instead of trying to go a little bit higher. So because they have a really long range, they stopped here instead of higher. Oh no, and now they're blocked by this by this cliff, and so now Zirnitra pretty much gets a free pass on those attacking Buckies. Polarbearz did get finished off by Zirnitra there. So these Buckies shooting at pretty much nothing here, hitting that cliff. Those Dillos were able to finish them off, and now the Buckies are all dead. Every single one of Polarbear's Buckies are dead. Polarbearz did get finished off by Zirnitra there at the mid, and now Zirnitra is going to be able to take control of this mid, and what a swing of power right now. Polarbearz with quite a lot of Buckies now down on the field, but now Zirnitra has a lot of Dillos surrounding this middle outpost and has it under his control. Let's see what he does with this. We are in that halftime heal stage at 4 minutes and 44 seconds in quarter 3. Let's see if Zirnitra is able to hold this middle outpost, or if Polarbearz will use that that range of Buckies to do the typical thing where you sit back and just let that range pelt the enemy units, and Zirnitra will have none of that. He is starting to move out with his Dillos already, not using mass commands, but old habits die hard. Does drop, does use the pick up drops style of ordering. And all these Dillos are actually set on attack. They are going for the fort. Let's see if Polarbearz is able to stop this. There are quite a lot of Buckies here, but Zirnitra has been able to kill quite a lot on the way, and there's still a huge train of Dillos coming over here. But there is a roller at this front door, and Polarbearz positioning Buckies, not necessarily defensively, but out of the way of that fire, so they will just start to throw DPS straight at those Dillos. At this point, Zirnitra has been able to take this forward, and Polarbearz has been able to finish off pretty much the rest of these Dillos. So Zirnitra now with more Dillos coming out, just still sending them on attack. Polarbearz now trying to bring his Buckies back, trying to neutralize this outpost. I do think it will happen with that many Buckies there. Oh, but they are a little bit distracted by Zirnitra landing, and now drops a Dillo in defense. So let's see if Zirnitra is able to finish those off. In the meantime, Polarbearz fighting off a war of his own here at this bottom factory. Has quite a lot of Dillos behind that roller, so those Buckies behind the Dillos. So the rollers will probably absorb all that damage, and all those Dillos are dead. And Polarbearz actually, with those Buckies, Zirnitra was not able to stop that neutralization at the top, so Polarbearz has been able to neutralize this. Let's see if he can drop some creeps or some infantry. He does have probes in his loadout, so let's see if he actually can retake that forward, or if his creeps will just wander in. Zirnitra now has Polarbearz pinned down, but Polarbearz pretty much has full life, so he doesn't really have to worry too much about that, and now is going to try to I don't know, just getting salvage off, I guess. But now Zirnitra with 4 soldiers going to try to retake this outpost, but 1 bulb up. He really needs 1 more, or a couple more actually would be better, but he will be able to take it. He doesn't have many Dillos in his queue, just has the 2, and Polarbearz with quite a lot of Buckies down on the field right now. They are kind of back here doing nothing, so he really wants to either move them up, set them on some kind of command, or just start to leapfrog, because he is doing the normal, I guess previously normal, roller Bucky Osprey thing. He probably will go with a leapfrog using that roller, to lead the way, to lead that charge, but now Zirnitra almost sniping that Bucky out of right under Polarbearz's nose, but Polarbearz did get that heal before Zirnitra was able to get the finish, and now Zirnitra just doing a little bit of fort harass, trying to get whatever damage in he can, I guess kind of delaying Polarbearz right now. He might be trying to, but with 2 Seekers and Polarbearz pinning him down, I doubt he will be able to survive this. Polarbearz will just re-micro that Seeker, and now does run into that wall of Buckies and does get finished off now by that Seeker. Polarbearz now has an opportunity, has an opening to move his Buckies up. This outpost is blue, but with so many Buckies, I'm not really sure why Polarbearz has not decided to move out yet. Maybe just because he's worried about how much Zirnitra might have in queue, or he hasn't really been able to do a full scout right now. Zirnitra, does have a goalie out now at level 8. And Polarbearz still not, he isn't using mass commands, he is just using the old pickup, so I'm not really sure the new, the AirMech veterans right now are really used to that mass commands thing, just because, especially right now, this is version 1, you don't really have that in your mind. But look at all these Buckies coming. That roller is definitely distracting quite a lot of that fire from those Dillos, but now 2 goalies out on the field, so Polarbearz trying to distract that goalie by landing, and does actually do a pretty good job with that. The Buckies have pretty much got right past, and there is not really anything at all, there is nothing at all defending Zirnitra's front door. So let's see what Zirnitra decides to do with this. Does have a goalie and 4 Dillos in queue, so he probably will be able to hold this off for now, but at what cost? He might have pretty much all of his life drained right now at this point, with all these Buckies here at this blue fort, and Polarbearz. And Polarbearz, that roller actually did push that goalie out of the way of that front door. So now those Buckies are actually, they do have a clear shot at that front door. Zirnitra repositioning it, and Polarbearz not using the goalie. the normal way now, or not using the goalie, that roller, not using that roller the way he just did. Oh, but Zirnitra did send a bunch of Dillos out here. I did miss that, but Polarbearz did come back in time and has a bunch of Buckies to defend, but I don't know if this is going to actually finish him off. Okay, yeah, there's only one Dillo left, and Zirnitra does get finished off on the ground. So now it's really, really close, though. Both players are really low on health. It is quarter 4. So let's see if Zirnitra or Polarbearz can actually, keep the aggression on their opponent's side, and Polarbearz is trying to do just that, spreading out his Bucky drop here, has 4 over here, and let's see if Zirnitra is not really blocking too much, has 1 Dillo blocked, but those 2 Buckies are pretty much getting free fire on this fort, and Zirnitra really needs to get that blocking out, and Zirnitra trying to get Polarbearz killed. The Buckies have been finished off, and Zirnitra really close, but Polarbearz might be okay. The Polarbearz was trying to transform up and down and kind of trick Zirnitra into doing the same, but Zirnitra did just stay on the ground and finished off Polarbearz there. And at this point, Zirnitra now has base fairly covered. His fort is, he has enough units there. Definitely has enough to do some decent blocking should it come to that again. Polarbearz just has more Buckies. I'm not sure if he's going to go with more drop, but at this point he has lost the close, he has lost the forward. He probably will be able to retake this, but there are 3 goalies now heading for Polarbearz fort. Let's see if he really sees it. He does see it now, so he does have 4 Buckies in queue. I don't think this is going to be, I don't know if Zirnitra is going to stop them here at this close, or if he's going to let those goalies go all the way to the fort. But at this point, I don't think these Buckies are really going to be enough for Polarbearz to really defend. And Zirnitra now with 2 Buckies here on the outside. This is probably going to be the end for Polarbearz. There are 3 goalies coming for his front door and 2 Dillos on the side, desperately trying to block and defend with these Buckies, but these goalies are just going to shred right through them. Zirnitra actually gets himself killed, but it is a little bit too late. It is okay. Polarbearz, it did get finished off by those Buckies, and Zirnitra does get this victory over Polarbearz. At this point, I don't even know if at the end, if Polarbearz just decided to drop, if that really would have been enough. So I think Zirnitra with that, that unit advantage there at the end, was definitely enough to take that win. Even if Polarbearz maybe continued that, I don't know, maybe if Polarbearz didn't decide to do that 4 Bucky drop there at the end and decided to go again for map control, he might have been able to push back with 4 more Buckies and with pressure on the mid instead of that fort. He might have been able to fend off against those Goliath, but those 3 Goliath and 2 Dolos were quite a lot, and even then right at the end there were still a lot of goalies alive. So yeah, at that point, I don't know if whatever decision Polarbearz made, I don't know if that would have swayed would have changed the outcome of this game. Wow, but that was really cool. It was sort of base racy, but not really. So guys, if you have any cool replays that you spectate, I will say give a big thanks to Valinor for spectating this replay for me and sending it in to me. So yes, if you guys spectate any good replays, send them into rui0x@gmail.com, or you can message me at RU1 on Steam. So check my video descriptions. I would appreciate, some links for the people that I'd like to support. Steve, Uncharted, Nomo. Who else do I have in those video descriptions? But anyway, yeah, follow my Twitter, guys. I really need it. So yes, this is RUI, and that is game. See you next time.